Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Good? So welcome to the panel session titled Nearshore is the New Offshore. We are going to be dissecting a few things. We're going to be talking about the new ways of working. We are going to be talking about how you tap into talent remotely. We are going to be talking about quite a few things. So yeah, I'm glad that you are here today. So I will introduce myself. My name is Riyanat Shittu. I go by Ri for short, and I'm an engineering leader. I am with Team Turntable, and we are a software consultancy. So we are based in the UK and in Ghana. We provide software engineers, we train them, deploy them to organizations in the financial services. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to introduce our amazing panelists and just give a bit of more context about what we're going to be talking about. So, has anyone heard of the Korn Ferry report? Anyone? No? Okay. So the Korn Ferry report is a very extensive detailed report created by a software consultancy called Korn Ferry about the talent shortage that we have and how that is going to continue to increase up till 2030. And those are some of the things that we're going to be dissecting. So if you're a technology leader or a business leader and you're building teams, there is going to be something for you here. And there's some really interesting stats that I just like to use to just set the scene. In this very extensive report, it's estimated that there will be unrealized capital of up to 8.5 trillion, based solely on the fact of there being a shortage in very highly skilled technology talent. Well, not just technology talent, but high-skilled talent in general. And the number of that high-skilled talent that there's going to be a shortage of is 85 million. So really large numbers. And then it's pretty extensive. I sat down and read the whole 52 pages of the report. It's pretty extensive, and we're going to be talking about some of those things and how, as a business leader and technology leader, you can combat some of those by just tapping into remote working, hybrid working, future ways of working, and talent that is not necessarily in the same region that you're at. So, we have our amazing panelists over here, and I am going to introduce them in no particular order. So we have Eryn Peters. Eryn is a future of work evangelist. Please join me in welcome Eryn. Thank you. She's a retired digital nomad and a scale-up builder. She's the founder of Startup Consortium, a boutique advising agency. And she's also the editor of Weekly Workforce, which is a too long don't read newsletter about the future of work. And what's really impressive, she has also been involved, a key contributor to the building of 2 unicorns of tech talent. These are Top Total and Andela. So we have Eryn. Next up, we have Megan Yates. Please join me in welcome Megan Yates. Thank you. She has over a decade of experience in data science, and she is the co-founder of Zindi. This is really impressive. Zindi is Africa's leading data science and artificial intelligence competition platform with how many people? Up to 90,000 community members. That's really impressive. Next up, we have Gideon Brefo. Gideon is the CEO. Please join me in welcome Gideon Brefo. He is the CEO of Hapaweb Innovation Hub, a digital innovation hub that provides co-working space, business training, and business support for young people in Ghana, Kumasi. He's also a key figure in building tech communities and business communities in Africa, and is very passionate about this. So we're going to have a very engaging conversation today, just around how you can tap into talent across the globe and bring those teams. Generally we say offshore, but bring them literally nearshore. We have some interesting facts about time zones. And finally, we have Sarah Sinclair. Please join me in welcoming Sarah. Sarah is the co-founder and CEO of ChangeGap. ChangeGap is a regulatory technology consultancy firm, and their focus is on bridging the gap between firms, regulators, and technology. She has over 20 years of experience in diverse aspects of financial services, including HSBC, Barclays, Credit Suisse, and Nationwide. So we have a diverse group here, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we are going to have. So, first question we have, Eryn, you've got lots of experience in the future of work, and you're very familiar with this tech talent shortage that we have. Could you tell us a little bit more about why we have this problem in the first place? This is just to set the scene. Why do we have some of these challenges, and what does the future of work look like?
Absolutely. And I think it's important to distinguish first, do we have a talent shortage or do we have a skills shortage? And at the end of the day, we all know very smart people who maybe were part of layoffs recently and are still looking for work. And the question is, how can we say we don't have enough people, but so many people are looking for jobs? And that's really where the skills shortage and gap is coming in. And when we start looking at skills deficits, it gets a little bit more complicated. And we start looking at things like, are organizations even enabled to do skills-first hiring? And the answer is no. Most companies are actually role-based organizations. And when was the last time you saw a job description that actually looked like the job someone was going to do? It's like a little bit archaic. And you're constantly measuring performance against a job title rather than do their skills actually contribute to the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So organizations are not equipped to even evaluate their skills deficits within their orgs right now. The next issue that we have with skills deficits is actually education. And formal education simply isn't keeping up with what the industries are demanding. So World Economic Forum did a skills report this year, and 46% of workers said that their formal education was not relevant to the job that they were currently doing. Yet when they were asking companies if they believed that removing a university degree requirement would open them up to more talent availability, only 6% agreed. So you can see that we're not actually communicating between industry and education. And the last factor we have with this deficit comes down to AI. We're all sick of hearing about it, but 23% of jobs and 44% of core skills from workers are going to be totally upended within the next 5 years. So we really need to make sure that companies are equipped to deal with this. Education and learners are changing the way that we learn how to work. And we're also using technology to our advantage rather than letting technology take advantage, right? So it's a big, hairy problem, and it's one that we all need to be talking about. So it's a good thing to be here today.
That's fantastic. And in terms of the future of work, how do you see just the workplace changing?
Yeah, well, as you heard, I am a digital nomad, or I was at one time. And workplace, it's more of a state of mind. So work isn't going to be defined by a physical location. It's going to be defined by our impact wherever we are. So I think we're seeing changes in how we're working. There's going to be more global, more distributed, more remote teams. And this skills-first way of hiring is going to increase working with freelancers or fractional talent in ways that we never have before. So we're really at kind of a tipping point of changing and deconstructing traditional workforces.
I really like the point you mentioned about building distributed teams, because Sarah, you've got lots of experience in doing this. You are working with people across the UK, Portugal, Spain, and in Ghana. You're one of our esteemed clients. So could you shed some light on how you've done this successfully, how you built high-performant teams and combated some of those challenges? I'm sure we have engineering leaders in the room and business leaders that want to do the same. So how have you done this really successfully?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I would say it's a journey. And we're living in an increasingly complex and changing and uncertain world. It sounds cliched, but it really is. I think when COVID came along, people said, hope we get back to normal soon. But I don't think that normal, whatever you class as normal, is going to come. And there's always going to be more changes and volatility. So the best way we can prepare is to mitigate against that and understand, keep a track on what's coming, what we think is coming, but also expect the unexpected. And I remember having a discussion with Sam, who founded Turntable, and luckily, he'd done that ahead of time. And then when the storms came, he was better equipped to face that. So I started my journey 4 years ago, having spent 25 years in corporate land, so banks, insurers, asset managers, and lately fintech. So I originally have a computer science degree, which is a bit baffling to my mother and entire family because, if there's a hardware problem, I can't sort it out. I said I did software engineering. But, throughout my career, I more got into the business side. And then I suddenly thought, with all of this data and tech, digitization, AI, going on out there, I need to be a part of that. I need to, even though my tech skills were years ago, it had followed me all throughout because invariably when I went into, some of the biggest banks or the smallest asset managers, the problems were always the same. It was about people. And then the second issue was business and technology not coming together. So that's the inspiration behind the business. And then I thought, well, how can I build something that's different? And so we're seeing consultancies like the Big Four and others, but also tech companies and data companies struggling because they're very kind of like old school fixed models. Oh, we do everything, and the same sort of business models, people models, and so on. So I thought long and hard about this, and so our mission, our business model, and the way we operate is different, and that's what started my journey. So I would say people, relationships are the biggest thing, and I'm not just saying it because I'm on this panel with Tendril, but literally I met Mike at the FINOS conference last year, and that's what started the journey. And we've done a project together, thanks to Calvin in the audience, and yourself, Riyanat, and the team. And now we're looking ahead to more. And then with the other teams, as you said, in Lisbon, London, and Cornwall, but we're also looking further afield. We're starting those journeys, so I say three things. One, start the journey early, invest in it, invest time and a bit of money. Build the right relationships, and it's a long game. It's hard, but if you don't, then it's a struggle. I would say the second thing is you get inbuilt diversity and inclusion. That's the great thing. I mean, to me, I tick a few D&I boxes, but through what we're doing and how, I struggle to understand why people find it so hard to sort of build that in. But this is certainly one, great natural way for it to happen. And it actually makes it fun and interesting for the teams working together. And then I think the third thing is, going back to my old days in tech, and in, recent times, that painful point in a project or a journey with your tech, someone says, why did we choose that tech stack? Or why does a solution do this? And so if you build in that kind of community view early, then you're going to avoid that. And I just find it a better way to work. And invariably, people do different things and have strengths and weaknesses. People love to say we do everything, we're great at everything, but in reality that's not the case. And sitting in my seat, building a business and facing off to some very highly regulated banks or businesses, they need the best and then some. So you've got to choose the right teams.
That's amazing. I think building those communities, just being patient, very important. And that links to the next question, which I'm going to ask Gideon. So you have an innovation hub in Ghana for young people, providing co-working spaces, lots of business training. One thing I found very interesting in this very long report was that there wasn't a lot of mention in terms of what's happening on the African continent. There were some interesting stats about how the talent, like the highly skilled talent in India, will continue to increase because there's lots of investment in training and support and just highly skilled individuals. But there wasn't a lot of mention in what's happening on the African continent. I, for one, know that a lot is happening. Like we've already mentioned Team Turntable, we train software engineers. I know that we have very young, keen people that are just embracing this new way of working remote first. But could you tell us a bit more about what Ghana has to offer and what about the African continent has to offer as well?
All right, so thank you for the opportunity to pitch Africa and Ghana for those that want to source talent. The good thing is that now, as you said, there are a lot of young talent around, energetic and ready to work. That's one thing. If you are talking about remote work, then you are also thinking about infrastructure. Now, the infrastructure there has improved a lot. People have access to internet to work. Okay, and so that's one thing that is good about what is happening in Ghana and other African countries. And you also quickly think about the cultural differences, right? It's good to have a dynamic team, right? You just have to be able to put in the right systems that ensure that people work to certain expectations and they have the right systems to work with. And of course, I'm happy to see institutions like Turntable, Amalitech, and the rest training people, at least helping them to understand international standards so that they can work with diverse teams from different countries across the globe. So that's also good and happening there. Another thing is that we have even academic institutions that now understand the concept of helping students to understand how to work for big corporates and then to adopt digitization and how to work with it. So you have institutions like Ashesi University, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, helping people to understand how to leverage on the existing digital tools to enhance what they do, and also not only to become users, but also how to create with this. And so all these things are happening on the continent. Talking about helping people to understand how they turn ideas into innovation, the innovation hubs are springing up. In Ghana alone, we have over 100 across the 16 regions. And if you look at AfriLabs, which is the mother of all the innovation hubs in Africa, there are over 500 hubs that are working across the African continent. So really, the talent exists and people have the willingness. The only thing is that they don't have the opportunities to these work opportunities. And so if anybody is thinking about sourcing for talent, Africa is one place to look at. Not to also forget about the fact that we are in the same time zone with most people in Europe. And so you do not have to wait for, I'm not speaking against anyone, 8 hours to get response from anyone or to stay up until early morning or dawn to interact with anyone, because you can work with people in real time.
I absolutely love that. And we were having a conversation earlier, because we basically started this earlier, just like having chats out there in the foyer. And we talked about it doesn't have to be one offshore team or the other. It's and. Like a lot of us in engineering, like we provide on-call support. You need 24-hour support around the clock. And there's so many benefits to having a diverse team. Even with your offshore teams, it doesn't just have to be we need to pick one place or we need to pick the other. I'd encourage you to actually consider, yes, it might be twice the paperwork, but you get way more than twice the benefits of just having a nice mix of offshore teams. Loads of benefits there as well. So Megan, you're also doing amazing stuff. 90,000, a community that's the largest in Africa for data science, of up to 90,000 members. Could you just like provide some insights in terms of, again, what the African continent, we've heard it from Gideon's perspective, but you have, lots in this space as well. I'm very keen to hear what you have to contribute.
Thank you. So I'll try follow on from some themes that have been spoken about already. But to give you just some idea of the scale, we're in 52 of the 54 African countries. So there are data practitioners in almost every country on Zindi improving their skills. to go back to what Eryn was saying, people just talk about data and AI, but there are so many specializations within that. We do see these very generic job specs for ML engineers, but there are specializations in forecasting, in computer vision, natural language processing, automatic speech recognition. I can go on for a long time, but I won't bore you. But so there are individuals across Africa with these deep skills. They are available and ready to work, as Gideon said. I think the biggest barrier is access to opportunities. It's extremely hard for organizations in the rest of the world to find the right talent, be able to vet them, and be able to include them in their organizations. I would say some of the barriers are technical skills very good. We struggle with, understanding standards, code practices, things like that, and then being able to operate in a business, talk to business owners, understand their challenges. So there's some, I would say, technical skills are brilliant, but there's definitely a gap in the cultural skills and being able to really operate effectively in an organization.
That's really good. And do you have some thoughts on how we can best bridge those cultural gaps?
One program I've seen quite recently is a mentorship program. So the company offers, for a period of time that they actually would mentor those candidates, for a period of time. So that helps. And then we're also trying to include more assessments around soft skills. So we are very good at understanding and vetting technical skills, but we aren't great at soft skills. I think that would go a long way to helping candidates. Also for them to understand what's required. I think they focus on what technical skills do I need to get the role, and they don't focus at all on their own growth and development in soft skills.
That's amazing. So I wear many hats in my role at Turntable, and I'm also an engineering manager. I get to work with, again, some of these very young, talented people that are very driven. And what I see is just them being able to once they know what the standard is, they can strive to that. And having some engineers just being given an opportunity I'm going to work on that project, and it's just so impressive to see how well they do and how fast they learn. So yeah, giving people an opportunity to really just get that experience. I remember when I was a grad, getting that first role, you need experience. Well, I kind of need the first role to give me the experience in the first place, and it's really the same thing that we're experiencing as well. So yeah, great. Just checking for time. Actually, so Sarah, for our business leaders and technology leaders, I know you talked about how you build successful teams, but if we've got business and technology leaders in the room and they want to go out and start building these teams and reaching out to offshore talent in Africa, on the continent, could you tell us, just again, just highlight those challenges, common challenges that you experienced and how you overcame some of those common challenges?
In building teams?
Yeah, on building those teams, yeah. On going out and building those teams, yeah.
Yeah, so, there's lots of examples to draw on, but I think, again, it sounds cheesy, but really, really focus on the people, the human side of it. What I come up across constantly, so we're trying to change that. We are building this ecosystem, and the responses I get is, "Oh, that's crazy. No, I just want to sell. I don't care about anyone else." Or, "Yeah, actually, that's great. We need that. How do we do it?" And it's just really hard. But if you're going to build anything of value to weather those storms that I talked about, it's just that constant investment in people and having something exciting that draws people in. And one of the differences we're seeing is use cases. So going back to the thing of consultancies can do anything, and data and tech companies can do anything and everything. It's what are those big challenges that need to be solved across the industry, and then that gets people excited. So in our own teams, I've seen a real shift. So some of them I've worked with 20 plus years, and whereas before they were just happy to work, using the skills that they are most skilled at. Now they're saying, no, I want to be abreast of all these areas, partly because, it's to mitigate their future, but partly also because they're just wanting to stretch themselves. So I think if you really understand your market, what you're doing, how you do it, and invest in your people and keep abreast, I think that's the key thing. And, in terms of challenges, it's really, to mitigate, because people expect more now. And I'm seeing it in my own children. They're 18 and 19. They, very different to the attitudes of my generation.
And I think we can't say enough to invest in people. If you focus on the people, a lot of challenges can be solved from that. So that's a massive takeaway for me, and it's something that we do, not just to plug in turntable, but we invest in people, we train people, we mentor. It's a key part of what we do on a day-to-day. So looking at the time,
can I just say something about investing in people?
Yeah.
We talk frequently about that, but what kind of investment are we making? If we are building their capacity, what kind of capacity? I think mostly we focus too much on the technical capacity building and forget about what will make it easier for them to work across teams. Do we even make room for people to make mistakes? Or they are so afraid to make mistakes that they can't innovate on what they are supposed to do, so they just want to follow from A to C and to Z. So we also have to think about building their capacity in soft skills so that they become very dynamic and be able to give us the outputs that we expect from them.
I love it. So just as we're rounding off, Megan, is there one thing that you'd like to share with the technology leaders in the room as a takeaway for them as they're going off to build offshore teams?
Yeah, as a takeaway, I think you've got to focus on giving your teams purpose, bringing them together, showing your brand as a great place to work for. That's the other side of it. So, you've actually got to make it attractive for people to want to work for you. I think it's a very, very competitive market, and you're going to have to do a lot of work to hire and attract the top talent.
Amazing. And Eryn, as a future of work evangelist, what's your one takeaway for the business and technology leaders building teams?
I think it's make sure that you have a full inventory of the capacity and capabilities on your team. It's not just about bums in seats, wherever those may be in the world. It's more about how are you actually able to accomplish these goals together. And it really has to do back, again, to these soft skills, which we should rename them because they're the hardest ones to learn. But how are you building resilient organizations that are capable of making mistakes and change? They're good with leadership, social skills, all of this. So make well-rounded individuals as part of your team and then appreciate all of those different skills that they have.
Fantastic. Gideon, would you like to give one thing as well?
Right. Yes, I will advise that if you want to build teams globally, then you have to have systems. So, for instance, if you are talking about Africans have a different concept about time, give them a system that ensures that they stick to time. So have systems, it makes it easier.
Fantastic. And Sarah, part of me is thinking that that one takeaway is investing in people, but I also want to give you that shot to just share your one takeaway if it's not investing in people, or am I right in thinking that's the one takeaway you want people to go away with?
Yeah, and in order to invest in people, really understand them and the differences in each culture and region so that you can invest in the right way. Not everyone needs and wants the same thing.
I love it. So that's it from us. I hope you've taken away lots of things. For me, as an engineering manager at Turntable and a strategic leader, it's really important to build diverse teams. And while it's a lot of investment, I can see a lot of reward. I can see my engineers being high performant. That mentorship goes a long way. We work with clients in the financial services that build complex systems and that have taken on some engineers as at the early stages of their career, and I can see them flourishing, building amazing things in open source. So as you go out and as you are building your teams, do consider all the different options that you have. It's not just one team in a particular location or the other. They can all complement each other. So that's it from me. I'm shamelessly going to plug in Turntable here. If you haven't already been to our booth, please do visit our booth. We are giving away, no pun intended, 2 turntables. If you can answer just 2 questions, one or the other, you can get to contribute as part of a raffle. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the session and you've taken away something today. So. And a massive thank you to all our panelists. Thank you very much. And this has been great.